Welcome to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, the podcast where we dive deep into the journey from vision to reality. I'm Kelly Jackson, your guide on this path of self-discovery, transformation, and intentional living. Here, we explore everything from mindset shifts and personal growth to spiritual alignment and entrepreneurship, sharing insights, stories, and actionable wisdom to help you live a life in harmony with your dreams. Every episode will dig into what it means to not only dream big, but to actually consciously create the life you envision. Let's turn your dreams into real life. Hello and welcome back. Let's talk about bullying. Yes, there is the classroom version. Yes, there are the playground stories that we have been recycling for years. But the identity wounds that it plants, the beliefs that it shapes, and the way it silently follows us into adulthood is specifically what we're going to talk about today. Because bullying does not end when school does. It evolves. And so do we. We are going to, in this episode, frame bullying as more than childhood trauma, okay? It really is or becomes an identity imprint. And I want to help you understand and untangle that. In this episode, I am going to break down what bullying actually does to the nervous system and the subconscious and your sense of self, and how to finally reclaim the parts of yourself that it disconnected from you. And whether you were bullied in school, at home, at work, or even inside your own mind, because we can bully ourselves, this episode will help you to understand the wound, interrupt the pattern, and reclaim your power in a way that your younger self never got the chance to. I'm also going to dive into, after the science, the idea that I know there are still bullies in your life now. There just are. There's still bullies in the world. So we're going to get into, after the science, about what's happening inside your internal world as a result of bullies. We're going to talk about how do you navigate and handle real life bullies now, like the ones that you're currently in your field or that drift in and out of your field or whatever. So that's what we're going to go. That's what we're going to go with today. This was a requested episode and I love it because we need to have this discussion. There are bullies in this world. We all know one, at least one, and probably more than one. And this is, I don't know of anyone that I've ever met that has not had an experience with a bully. So this feels like a very appropriate topic. And I was excited to sit down and record this for you, or I am excited to sit down and record this for you. I was excited when this was requested. Nervous system evidence. We're going to start with that. We're going to start with, because I want to get into, y'all know I love all this, the scientific, the psychological, the somatic, the lived experience, all of that as it relates to bullies. And we're going to start with nervous system evidence. Bullying activates chronic fight or flight in the developing nervous system. That leads to hypervigilance, people pleasing, shut down, collapsing boundaries later in life. There are subconscious imprints that happen as a result of being bullied. By the ages of 7 to 14, identity beliefs are forming. And bullying can embed stories like I'm too much, I'm not enough, I'm unsafe being myself, I'm unsafe speaking up, using my voice. And these become subconscious algorithms that the brain runs until you rewrite them. Now, y'all know, I tell you all the time, the subconscious mind runs the show. 95% of everything you do, say, and think comes from the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind will never outperform your own self-image, who you believe yourself to be. Now, if you have subconscious beliefs, stories, I'm too much, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, and those could have come the ages of 7 to 14 from bullies. Sometimes your first bully is your parent. I want you to let that land. Some of you that might not resonate. Some of you might go, that's the truth. And it's unfortunate, but it's factual that sometimes our first bullies are our parents or caretakers. So much is happening in your developmental years. By the age of 7, and then from the ages of 7 to 14, your identity beliefs are forming. Okay, I want you to hear that this is important. This isn't me just making stuff up. This is science. Attachment wounding. Bullying is going to teach your nervous system that connection equals danger and that isolation equals safety. And again, this is going to shape adult relationships until you've healed it. And you may not even be consciously aware of it. I want to share a couple of my lived experiences or stories with bullying, and perhaps you may recognize your own experiences in this. I remember in the past, before I was consciously aware of much, I had found myself in relationships, and when I say relationships, that doesn't always mean intimate relationships, but relationships where there was a dynamic with a bully. And I can recall some of the specific things that would happen, things like saying things like to try to instill panic or fear into you, and then ending that with, this isn't a threat, it's a promise. In other words, it's inevitable. I'm not threatening you. I promise you this is the action I'm going to take on you, towards you, about you. And being really explosive and mad, and then when confronted about it, saying, you think this is mad? You ain't seen mad yet. You just wait. I'll show you mad. Kind of the whole, I'll give you something to cry about type of energy. As you may or may not know, for 10 years now, we as in me and my daughters, have been in a multi-generational living arrangement. We live on the same property as my parents. There's an apartment behind their house, which is my domicile. It's on the same property though, and it has been amazing and wonderful and beautiful and so healing, and 100% the path I've chosen. However, there are grown adults, a grown adult who believes this is outrageous and who loves to send texts and messages and say things about what a loser I am and what kind of example am I to my daughters being 40 and, in their words, still living at home. And all of this sort of stuff. Guys, this is bullying. This is trying to make someone feel insecure, inferior, bad, based on another person's perception, but doing it in a way that is really, really cruel. I want to remind you of something. Bullying is not just something that happens to kids. There is adult bullying, workplace shaming, microaggressions, family emotional manipulation, the silent treatment, cyberbullying. Okay? All of these things count. I'll give you another example. Cyberbullying. I've had another person, another female even, and this definitely instilled a feminine energy wound that I had to heal. I had another female who went to my blog post about when I shared about my journey of transitioning to a vegan plant-based lifestyle, and they took screenshots of all my blog posts and they posted them all over their social media, making fun of me, like highlighting things, laughing, actually writing LOLs on the screen, circling and highlighting the parts where I talked about the day it actually happened was when I had brought a tray of crawfish home and put them in front of my daughter, and she recognized 3 varying sized crawfish on the top. She registered that. She was like 5 at the time as a family, and she started instantly crying saying, "We killed a family." And in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, we did. And I never ate animals again after that. It was like an overnight thing. But this is the point. This woman wanted to shame me, wanted to publicly humiliate me, or attempted to, I suppose. It was bullying. And it was taking screenshots, laughing, saying, "Oh, really? Your 5-year-old," with these little emojis, like the laughing, crying emoji. And it was moving all over the screen. And it was just this ridicule and this attempt to smear and to shame and to bully. And this was not the first time this person had done this with my posts and my blog posts and my Instagram posts. And there were countless times that my content was reposted on their page, or just details of my life were posted on their page with their own commentary, talking about what a horrible mom I am, what a horrible person I am. All of this stuff. Guys, that's bullying. That's cyberbullying. That's adult bullying. Now, I've worked through all this. I healed all this. I'm grateful for all of this because it provided me so much insight and clarity and allowed me to strengthen my relationship with myself. It didn't derail me. It actually helped me to elevate my own life and experiences more rapidly. So your triggers are your teachers. I'm deeply grateful for these experiences because I've learned from them, and now I can transmute them. I can sit here as a host of this podcast and recount my lived experiences, relate them to things you may be going through, and then provide insight on how to navigate situations like this. So I'm not speaking from a place of anger or bitterness. I'm speaking from the other side of it, saying, hey, yeah, I get it. And I mean, that was real. They were even bringing my children into it. It happens, is what I'm saying. And so that's why this is important to have this talk and to give you some emotional grounding before we dive into it. Okay? So I'm going to first talk about what to do if you've already experienced bullying from the past, and then we'll get into how to handle it now if you're currently in a bullying type situation. So let's start with some practical and embodied tools for healing. First, you got to name the identity wound. Bullying creates identity distortion. And I'm going to give you some examples of some of the beliefs that bullying can plant, okay? So that you can begin to name them so that you can begin to dismantle them. The biggest one, something's wrong with me. Okay, this is an identity distortion. Where it comes from is being targeted repeatedly or for arbitrary things like your looks, your clothes, your intelligence, your body, your intelligence, your body changes, things like that. Okay. The distortion here is that you assume the bullying means that you're defective, you're flawed, you're fundamentally less than. And the way that that can show up today is as constant overthinking, people pleasing, editing yourself in social rooms, perfectionism, fear of being seen. Sound familiar? Okay. Another one would be, I'm not safe being myself. So this is kind of a performative mask wearing type of wound. And it comes from if you were mocked for who you were, like your personality, your interest, your quirks, your sensitivity, your joy, just being who you were, and you were mocked for that, then the distortion there is being authentic equals danger. And so you learn to mask and shrink and dim your light and shapeshift to survive. And how that would show up today is social anxiety, hiding your talents, avoiding visibility. You know, I often talk about healing the visibility wounds. That's something I've had to do, especially to step into this space I'm in now. Self-sabotage when you start shining. Okay, these are all things that that wound of I'm not safe being myself, that the ways they can manifest in your life. Another identity wound would be my voice doesn't matter. And that would come from being talked over, laughed at, dismissed when you try to defend yourself. And the distortion here is that your truth doesn't hold weight, that your voice doesn't matter, that you learn silence as survival. And how it shows up today is that you have a fear of speaking up, and you stay quiet in relationships. You struggle to set boundaries. You avoid confrontation. Another identity wound, love has to be earned. And guys, just so you know, I think I've experienced all these identity wounds. You know, there's nothing wrong with you if you have in the past or currently are living inside of one of these identity wounds. The good news is that they're all distortions and they can all be healed. Okay? I wanted you to hear that. But so this love has to be earned identity distortion would come from inconsistent acceptance and like bullies being nice one day and cruel the next. So you're like, what the? It's such a mind fuck, you know? The distortion is that you love that you learn that love is conditional and unpredictable. And the way that would show up today in your life would be that you are working way too hard for people's approval. Like you believe that's the way it has to be. You're overgiving. You are tolerating emotional breadcrumbs. I know that's going to land with some of y'all. Stop doing it. And then attracting emotionally inconsistent partners, which of course goes hand in hand with accepting and tolerating emotional breadcrumbs. Okay? Love does not have to be earned. But if you grew up in an environment where it felt that way, then that becomes your identity wound. All right? Another one, my worth is determined by how others treat me. And this would come from being defined by external opinions in your formative years. And that distortion that it creates is one of you evaluating your worth based on feedback, attention, or criticism. And the way that shows up today is you need constant validation. And there is a lot of social comparison, and you fear rejection, and you're basing confidence on compliments or likes, how many people engaged with your Instagram post. Okay? We got to let that go. Coming from the girl who still feels super excited if the only two people who like her post is her mom and herself from another account. Okay? You can heal it, is what I'm saying. Another one that comes to mind: if I shine, I'll be attacked. And this is a big one. And it comes from bullies often targeting people who stand out or who have something special. And the distortion becomes that you associate visibility with danger. And I mentioned earlier the visibility wound, okay? How does that manifest in your life? I'll tell you. You start dimming your gifts. You downplay your accomplishments. You avoid success, even on a subconscious level. And you have this narrative of, I don't want to seem too full of myself. So you retract and you pull it all in. And you don't allow yourself to be seen and shine the way that you're truly meant to. Another one would be, I'm alone, no one will protect me. This would come from being in environments where adults ignored the bullying and friends didn't defend you and you felt under-supported. And the distortion there is that you internalize hyper-independence. I've got to do it all myself. I'm alone. Nobody's going to protect me. And the way that would show up today is that you have difficulty asking for help and you're trying to do everything alone. And you don't trust. Like you have a lot of distrust in group settings. And there is this sense of emotional self-isolation. Like, I can't let anybody know or see. I've got to do it all alone. And that doesn't feel good. Another one, conflict means danger. And that comes from hostile encounters or unpredictable aggression if you were in that kind of environment. And the distortion here is your nervous system tags all conflict as life-threatening. All of it. It's instantly life-threatening. And the way it will show up is you're going to freeze in confrontations. You're going to avoid difficult conversations. You're an over-apologizer. Guys, this is one, especially in women and females in general, not just women as in adult women, girls. The over-apologizing is real. It's real. I know there are some girls and women in my life that I am constantly reminding, stop apologizing. Stop apologizing. Like, I recall this one time, we were on a road trip and the female said that they needed to go to the restroom and then said, I'm sorry. Like, do not apologize because you need to go to the restroom. Like, the fact that, like, when we get to the next exit, could you please pull off so I could go to the restroom? I'm sorry. Like, instantly I'm sorry. Girl, stop apologizing because you got to pee. That's not something you apologize for. If you spilled your drink on the floorboard and it stained the seat, you could say, oh, I'm so sorry. But not because you need to go to the restroom. Do you understand what I'm saying, guys? So another one would be in that same category of conflict means danger, shutting down emotionally under stress. If you recognize yourself in this, that's okay. That's okay. You can heal it. You can move on from it. This is not your forever. I don't belong anywhere. That's another identity wound that comes from being excluded, mocked, or othered, the whole black sheep of the family type of thing. And you internalize that you are the outsider everywhere, though. That's the distortion. And then today, that manifests itself as imposter syndrome. It's not a phrase I love to use, but this is the second time in like 2 weeks I've used it because I recognize that people relate to that. They hear that and they know what it is. So feeling like an imposter, always being the observer but never the participant type of thing. Not fitting in, feeling like you're not fitting in even when you are accepted. And then on that note, self-removal from groups preemptively. Okay? When I say bullying creates identity distortions, this is what I mean. Bullying plants false identities in children that adults mistake as their personality. It's not who they truly are, it's who they became to survive. This is your survival brain. This is your survival system. This is you living in your survival body. This is the distortion, the identity distortion. This isn't who you are as an adult. This is who you are falsely living inside of the identity of as a result of the bullying that happened in your formative years. And when you can name these wounds, it will help you understand why you react the way you do. It will help you release shame. And just for the record, shame is the lowest vibrational frequency there is. The lowest. Okay? Below greed, below jealousy, below envy, below everything. Shame is the lowest vibrational frequency this is. This is why I'm always coming back to shame. And one of my favorite mantras, shame off me. Shame off me. Okay? Disidentifying from the wounded story is another thing that will happen when you name the wound. You can disidentify from it, and you can reclaim your authentic identity, and you can begin nervous system repair and step into your true self-love. So, speaking of nervous system repair, this is about teaching the body that it's safe again, okay? And you can do this with regulation practices like breath work, specifically with longer exhales than inhales. For instance, breathe in your nose for 4, hold for 2, and then exhale through the mouth for 6. Do that one more time. Inhale through the nose for 4. Hold for 2. Exhale out through the mouth for 6. Very good. You just did your nervous system a solid. Another thing is shaking therapy. So this is such a good somatic release. Shake your body. Shake, shake, shake. Like truly shake. Shaking therapy is so good. Orient in the room. So you list 5 things you can see. We've done this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing before, right? And it's so grounding and it's so great for orienting yourself in the room and managing anxiety and focusing on your 5 senses to bring you back in the present moment. So it's 5 things you can see. You name 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. It's simple. It's discreet. It's an effective tool for calming the nervous system and shifting your focus away from overwhelming thoughts. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, okay? We can do cold water on the face. That's a good one. Grounding techniques, shoes off, bare feet on the grass, right? Standing in the sun, facing the sun with your face to the sun, eyes closed, arms outstretched, and allowing yourself to soak it up and to be in that energy of the sun and feeling the gratitude for the present moment, okay? All of this reprograms the fight or flight imprint. There is another layer that's important, which is rewriting the subconscious script. And this is where guided affirmations and subconscious reframes come into play. Things like, I'm allowed to exist. My presence is not a threat. Love is safe for me. I don't need to shrink to belong. These may not be the thoughts you currently have running through your mind or operating in your system, in your subconscious mind, in your system. And so the way neuroplasticity works, because your brain is plastic, which means it can change. And neuroplasticity is the idea of creating new neural pathways. You're literally rewiring the subconscious mind. So, and the way that happens is through repetition. So if you think of, have you ever been out in the country or something like that, and there's not an actual driveway up to the house, but there is the path that the vehicles have taken over and over and over and over again, where eventually there becomes two little tire marks where the grass isn't growing and they have created the path, and that becomes the quote driveway, okay? But that only happened over time. That happened because the vehicles kept repeating the same pattern over and over and over. At first, it was all grass, and then maybe the grass in that area got bent up, laid down a little. But eventually, after repetition, the grass stopped growing there because that became the new driving path, okay? This is what happens in your brain when you create new neural pathways. This is why affirmations aren't just some silly little, what is an affirmation? No, it is the vehicle repeating the same path over and over until that becomes the new path, okay? So I'm allowed to exist. I can shine bright. Whatever your thing that you're affirming is, you affirm it over and over and over and over again. That becomes your new belief system through repetition, okay? Another thing that you can do here is build a new internal protector. This is all about boundaries as a self-love practice. Boundaries are important not only to create and maintain healthy boundaries, but to honor those boundaries as well, okay? And this is 100% a huge part of self-love, to the point that an entire module of Self-Love Uni is dedicated to boundaries. Meaning we go deep, because this is something that most of us really struggle with on some level, okay, is our boundaries. And so boundaries, there are lots of different kind of boundaries too. There's emotional boundaries, time boundaries, energetic boundaries, physical boundaries, right? There are so many different types of boundaries. And so this one is important. You must build a new internal protector. And that is going to require you having a really intimate understanding of boundaries and the courage to put them into place and to keep them there and to not allow others to cross that boundary. Okay? And look, I'm going to tell you right now, bullying absolutely will make people lose their internal advocate. Okay. And that could have been something that happened to you. Well, guess what? Good news. Now you get to rebuild it. Okay. Another thing that I want you to do is reclaim your visibility, because when you've been bullied, hiding becomes a survival strategy. Truly, been there, done that. 100% it does. Guess what? Guess what the medicine is? Visibility. So I'm going to encourage you to at least start off with some small acts of being seen. Post something authentic. Speak a truth. Express a preference. Little things, guys. Say no. Say no. Don't say yes if you really want to say no. Say no. These retrain the brain to associate visibility with safety. And that's what we want you to do. That was a little bit about the science, because I said I was going to get into that. What I want to do now is continue, but we're going to expand into the practical, real world, emotional, and energetic side of handling bullies while still living your life. So let's go deeper now into how to behave when you're actively dealing with a bully, and how to maintain your dignity and your power and your peace and your identity, even when there is someone who is actively trying to provoke you, to shame you, to intimidate you. So here we go. Okay. Let me start with this, because this is the honest to God truth. Even when you've healed and you've regulated your nervous system and you have built this super strong internal world, bullies don't evaporate. They still exist. They exist online, at work, in families, in co-parenting dynamics, in high school hallways, in group chats, in friend circles, and yes, even in spiritual spaces, okay? And the real skill, the elevated, embodied, self-led skill isn't how to stop bullies from being bullies. It's how to live your life and protect your peace and stay in your truth while the bullies exist. Okay, because this is where real sovereignty begins. And I want to dive into this. I want to dive into the tools that actually help you live with a bully, not live with a bully. Well, you may be living with a bully in the same house. I hope that's not the case. But what I'm saying is how to live your life when there are bullies still existing somewhere in your field, okay? And actually live, not just cope, because that ain't the vibe. So let's start here. Understand that bullies feed on your reactivity. Bullies do not thrive on your existence. They thrive on your response. They want your tears, your fear, your defensiveness, your over-explaining, your cracked voice, your emotional spiral. Not because they win, but because it confirms the role that they need to be powerful. And when you stop giving them the emotional fuel, you starve the dynamic. And this doesn't mean you stay silent. It means you stop performing for their ego. Okay, a bully can only eat what you serve them. Stop feeding them. There was something that I used to have written on my wall at a period of time in my life when I was living with a bully. I was in the same environmental space as a bully. And I remember writing on my wall, some people need negativity like they need air. Be positive and take their breath away. And what that meant on a deeper level was what I just said here. A bully can only eat what you serve them, so stop feeding them. And I needed that reminder. And eventually I changed my living situation. That was no longer my living situation. But while I was there, it was like me having that on my wall where I could see it every day was the reminder that I needed to myself that this is not the environment for me. Another thing is another idea about how to handle bullies that are currently in your life is do not match their frequency. It contaminates your energy. Okay, because bullies are going to be operating in survival mode, period. They are in fight, they are in dominance, they are in performative superiority. And if you try to fight them from the same frequency, you lose twice. Once to them and another time to yourself, okay? Matching their energy pulls you into their field, which pulls you out of alignment and into chaos. And now you're fighting in their arena where they're more practiced. Your job is to stay in your integrity, your tone, your rhythm, your calm power. You're not avoiding conflict. You are refusing to abandon yourself. And I'm not even sure why this quote popped into my mind right now. I guess obviously because it's relevant, but it's a Mark Twain quote that says something along the lines of, never argue with a fool. Onlookers won't be able to tell the difference. You understand what I'm saying? Don't go to their level. Don't stoop down to their level. Stay in your own light. Protect your frequency, not your ego, is what I'm saying. And this is really important, okay? Another idea here would be power is quiet, insecurity is loud. And I know you've heard this concept before, maybe in different words, but I want you to take a minute and let that land. Bullies yell, they mock, they belittle, they manipulate, they humiliate, they exaggerate, they try to use shame as a weapon. This is not confidence. This is camouflage. Quiet power doesn't need to posture. Grounded confidence doesn't need to attack. Self-assuredness doesn't need an audience. When you truly embody this and you internalize this, bullies stop feeling powerful and they start looking transparent AF. Their volume is not a sign of strength, it's a sign of their fear. Okay, I want you to hear that. It just came to mind when I said that, all bark and no bite. Some bullies are like this too. Now, don't get me wrong. You got some bullies that will absolutely escalate it and take it a step further. And the ones who are really, really, really insecure are all bark and no bite. They certainly won't do it alone. They might bite if they feel like they got a whole gang behind them to back them up. But on their own, when it comes down to it, face to face, they're not going to bite, but they're going to bark loud as hell. And they're going to use that as a fear tactic. Test me, I dare you. See what happens. And you know what? Maybe nothing will happen. But they are banking on you being so afraid of what will happen that fear alone will keep you out of integrity with yourself. Another way that we can handle current bullies in our life is to choose strategic disengagement and not emotional avoidance. And I want you to really hear the difference here, okay? Avoiding conflict because you're scared is not the same thing as disengaging because it is beneath your vibration. Okay? Strategic disengagement looks like minimal responses, redirecting the conversation, refusing to argue or, quote, get in a fight, setting time boundaries, energetic boundaries, setting physical or digital distance. Okay, guys, bullies hate being met with neutrality because there is no emotional rope for them to pull on. You become untouchable. I have been in this situation where people will lash out and have sent rage texts or messages that are just full of charged with insecurity, with rage, with all this stuff, with misdirected anger towards me, and lies and myth-truth, and just full of bullying. Just from the first word to the last word, it's one bully tactic after another. And they want a response. They want to activate something inside you. That is what they're counting on. They want to keep that energy going. And when you choose to disengage because it is below your vibration, it is beneath your vibration, I am not going to engage with that. And you simply do not respond. That's what takes their breath away. That thing I said earlier, I'm not going to engage with this. That is the worst feeling in the world for a bully because you're giving them nothing, okay? You're giving them nothing. And they hate that. Bullies hate being met with neutrality. And what I want you to hear is this. Disengagement is not weakness, okay? It is emotional leadership. Period. Another big one is don't argue with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. A bully's goal is not resolution, ever. It's domination, every time. And they will twist your words. They will use your emotions against you. They will rewrite history. Rewrite history, meaning they will fabricate stories that are not true to frame you into some certain light that fits their narrative. They will bait you into circular arguments and play victim when they're confronted. Sound familiar? If you've ever dealt with a bully, yeah, it all sounds familiar. You can't logic someone out of a role that they need to play. In their mind and their psyche, they need to play that. You cannot explain your way into safety with someone who benefits from your insecurity. And you can't reason with someone whose ego is threatened by your truth and who is absolutely unconsciously aware of their own ego. Let's just say that too, okay? You have to walk away. You're not losing, you are exiting the game. The game being the one that they're playing, okay? Walk away. Your peace is worth more than being proven right. You got to be okay with letting them believe what they believe, because you know that it is not true. Another thing that you can do is using energetic boundaries, like, I don't receive that. Okay? Sometimes the most powerful boundary isn't even a physical boundary. It is an energetic boundary. And this is like when someone throws insults or projections or passive aggressive comments or little jabs at you, or they try to use intimidation. What you can do is mentally, or rather, imagine mentally stepping back and saying, I don't receive that. This internal boundary prevents you from internalizing their energy, okay? You're not pretending it didn't happen. You are refusing to let it penetrate your identity. These energetic boundaries create psychological distance, even when you can't create physical distance, okay? What I like to tell people is, imagine that you are creating, have y'all ever seen that movie, The Incredibles? It's like a Disney Pixar movie. And the girl, the daughter, Violet, can make these like force fields around her. She can like make a bubble around her or her family, whoever's by her, and nothing can get in. Okay, you can do that too. You can create a boundary, an energetic boundary that will not let that in. That you can say, I don't receive that. That energetic boundary that you created around yourself, that you are protecting your own energy with, this is going to create that psychological distance from them, and you're not allowing it into your psyche, okay, into your subconscious. You don't have to swallow what someone else serves. Just like we said earlier. Except this is reversed. They serve it to you. You don't have to swallow it. Okay? And another thing you can do is anchor into your identity, because they cannot shake what you know. You know who you are. Bullies only succeed when they find a crack in your self-image. And the more solid your self-concept, the less access they have. This, my friends, is where self-love becomes the armor. Not the hard kind, the soft, impenetrable kind. When you know who you are, you become unshakable. Their words lose weight. Guess what? That pisses them off. Their attempts fall flat. That doesn't mean they won't stop, but they're going to fall flat every time. Your internal safety becomes louder than their external noise. Eventually, they will vibrate out of your life. The bullying attempts will become fewer and far between, and you will be not so emotionally charged when they do show that bullying side of themselves. You begin to see it for what it is so plainly, so clearly, and it's just not activated in you anymore. Truly, you get to a point where it is so easy to spot a bully and their insecurities. It is like comical almost, because of how easy it is to see a bully for what and who they really are. You can't unsee it once you see it. And once you're really sovereign in your self-love journey, and you do have self-love as your armor, again, not the hard kind, but it's this sovereign kind, you're untouchable. That bullying, it's not effective anymore. And a bully, they simply cannot intimidate someone who is rooted in themselves. This has been my lived experience. This is one of the main drivers of why I created Self-Love Uni, why I even went on this path. I know, I have intimate knowledge of bullies, and so intimate. And I know how they operate. I know how they think. I know what it feels like to live with bullies. I know what it feels like to heal your nervous system and your psyche from bullies. And that's why I'm just grateful that someone requested this episode, because this is so resonant. And I know I'm not the only one who has experienced bullies, okay? Another way we can handle bullies is, if it's safe, call the behavior out with calm precision and not emotion. Okay, we don't want this to be emotionally charged, but if you are able, if it's safe, and if you are at a place in your nervous system healing and all that where you can truly be calm and precise, that's what you do. You call out the behavior, because bullies expect a couple things: tears, panic, defensive rambling, over-explaining, emotional spirals, justification. They want all that. They want you to lose it. What they never expect, though, is calmness, clarity, brevity, neutrality, boundaries. When you call out behavior with a stable tone, that disarms them, because it exposes the power imbalance that they were trying to create. Let me give you some examples. Don't speak to me that way. I'm not available for this tone. This conversation is over. I will not engage with disrespect. Okay, that's it. Like, those were simple. I wasn't over-explaining. I'm just ending it there. I wasn't bitch. I wasn't being a bitch. I wasn't having some underlying sarcastic, passive-aggressive tone. Okay? It's simply stating from a sovereign place, it's a no for me. I'm not going to engage with this. Clarity is a frequency that bullies cannot stand. Okay? There are some situations when you can't leave a bully, like workplace, co-parenting, etc. Okay? And you have to, at that point, shift from emotional interaction to logistical interaction. And this one is life-changing. And I want to tell you what I mean. You have to communicate like a lawyer, like a surgeon, like a CEO. Okay? Short, precise, boring. Bullies want emotional access. You remove it. You're going to use time-stamped communication. You're going to use written formats. Facts only. No emotional charges here. Facts only. Boundaries. Documentation when needed. No emotional commentary. Okay? This is going to keep you protected and unentangled. That's because when emotions aren't on the line, bullies lose their leverage. That is what bullies are feeding off of, is the emotion, that charge that comes with it, and your reactivity. And this is another time to mention, because it just popped into my head. Bullies are reactive. It's up to you to be responsive. A reaction is just a knee-jerk, like a reaction. You're just a reactive. What you're being called to do is take a beat and respond. Respond from a thoughtful place of clarity, intention, alignment, and integrity with who you know yourself to be. You're not going to allow this bully and all of their insecurities, projections, all of the stuff going on in their life to bring you down to their low vibrational frequency of fighting. We're just not going to do it anymore. You don't have to heal someone to have compassion for them. And guys, this is high level emotional maturity. You can recognize that hurt people, and trauma creates armor, and insecurity becomes aggression, and fear becomes cruelty, all these things that you hear, while still protecting yourself fiercely. And on that note of hurt people, keep in mind that not every hurt person hurts another person. I've been hurt a lot, but I don't go around hurting other people. There's a saying that kind of, I guess, is associated with that: healed people heal people. And so there are some nuances there, but what is important of noting is that people who are bullies, yes, they're hurting. That doesn't justify or give them the reason to try to hurt other people. But people who are at peace with themselves are not actively bullying other people. They're just not. And if someone is just a flat out bully, there is a part of them that is hurting so much, that does not feel seen, that does not feel safe, that does not feel held or witnessed or whatever. That doesn't, again, you can recognize all that, but you can recognize it while still protecting yourself fiercely. Compassion does not require closeness, guys, and understanding doesn't require access. Not everyone gets access to you, especially not the bullies. And empathy doesn't require tolerance. You do not have to tolerate this behavior. Okay, pardon. You can hold compassion in your heart and boundaries in your life. I want to give you a way to continue the healing. Okay? Bullying shapes identity. Self-love rewires it. And inside of Self-Love Uni, this is the work we do. Not just understanding the wound, but unlearning it and rewriting the identity and regulating the nervous system, of course, and becoming someone that your younger self would trust. And so if this episode brought something up for you, or if you felt a little tug in your chest, that's your body asking for deeper support. So lean in, listen, get curious. And there is a link in the show notes so you can find out more about Self-Love Uni. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. I love you. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It. I hope today's episode sparked something powerful within you. Remember, every step you take towards your vision counts, no matter how small. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please take a second to hit that subscribe button or leave a review. That would be amazing. Or share the podcast with someone who's ready to bring their dreams into reality too. And if you're looking to dive deeper, connect with me on social media at Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, or at BE_what you want. Or visit dreameditthenreallifedit.us for more resources on aligning your life, business, and dreams. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep manifesting your dreams into real life. Love you, friends.